Level 1, the curious kid. You're 11. You didn't plan this. Your older brother left a laptop on the kitchen table. You opened it. The password screen appeared. You guessed it in 3 tries. His name. Then his birthday. Then the dog's name. Third try. You're in. That's the moment. Not a classroom. Not a teacher. Just a locked door and the need to know what's behind it. You spend the next 6 months taking things apart. The old desktop in the garage. The router your dad never set up correctly. The cable box that stopped working in October. You don't fix them. You just want to see how they work inside. What connects to what, why any of it runs at all. Your dad calls it destructive. You call it research. Neither of you is wrong. Level 2, the script kiddie. You're 14. You've found the forums. You don't understand most of what you're reading, but you copy the commands anyway. Someone posts a tool that scans for open ports. You run it on your neighbor's network without knowing what you're looking for. You find something. You don't know what to do with it. You close the terminal. Your hands are shaking slightly. Not from fear, from possibility. You download tools you didn't build. Run exploits you didn't write. You're borrowing other people's understanding and passing it off as your own. Even to yourself. A kid named Prentice on the forum tells you that's not hacking. That's typing. You ignore him. Then you think about it for 3 days, then you start reading code. Actually reading it. Line by line. Prentice is right and you hate that. You spend weeks trying to understand what the exploit actually does before running it. You trace through the logic. You read explanations written by people smarter than you. You build a virtual machine just to test things safely. Your curiosity becomes academic. You realize you don't just want to use these tools, you want to know why they work. The difference feels significant. Your classmates still think you're just gaming on your computer after school. You're actually somewhere else entirely. Level 3, the self-taught student. You're 17. You've been coding for 2 years, Python first, then C, then assembly when you want to understand what's really happening at the instruction level. You build a port scanner from scratch, nothing borrowed, every line yours. It's slower than the tools you use to download, but it's yours. That distinction starts to matter in a way you can't fully explain. You find a vulnerability in your school's grade portal, not looking for it, just poking around during study hall. You stare at the login form. You type a single quote into the username field. The error message that comes back tells you everything. SQL injection. Basic, unpatched. You could change any grade in the system. You close the browser. You write up the steps in a text file and email it to the IT department. They never respond. The vulnerability is still there 6 months later when you graduate. Level 4, the self-educated operator. You're 20. You're in a community college programming course that bores you completely. The professor teaches things you already know. You sit in the back and read CVE reports instead. Your real education happens at night. CTF competitions on weekends. Legal targets, controlled environments. You place in the top 15% on your first attempt. Top 8% 3 months later. You're not the best. You know who the best are. They're faster, cleaner, but you're getting closer. A man named Aldrich posts a walkthrough of a challenge you couldn't solve. You study it for 2 hours. Then you replicate it from scratch without looking at his solution. Then you read his solution again to find where yours was less efficient. You do this every week. Your methodology tightens. Your instincts sharpen. You start seeing the shape of systems the way a locksmith sees a door. Not just the surface, everything underneath. You enter a capture the flag competition in person for the first time. The energy is different. Everyone around you knows things. Everyone is solving problems faster than you think to approach them. You don't place. You finish middle of the pack, but you meet people. Real people doing real work. One of them works at a security consultancy. You don't ask for a job, you ask for advice. He tells you to get comfortable with failure at scale. Test your tools against real systems. Legal ones, write-ups, Documentation. Build a portfolio of work that shows you understand the reasoning, not just the mechanics. Level 5. The gray hat. You're 23. You've been doing freelance bug bounty work for a year. Companies post targets. You find vulnerabilities. They pay you, some pay well, most pay late. One company sends you a cease and desist instead of a reward because you found a flaw they didn't want public. You forward the letter to a journalist. The story runs. The company patches the flaw within 48 hours. You get nothing but a mention in paragraph 7. You find a misconfigured cloud storage bucket belonging to a healthcare company. 60,000 patient records. Exposed. No authentication. Publicly accessible to anyone who knew the URL. You sit with that for a long time. The right call is obvious. You call their security line. Nobody answers. You email their CISO. No response. You contact a federal cybersecurity agency on a Thursday afternoon. They respond by Friday morning. The bucket goes offline by Friday night. You never get credit. That stops bothering you eventually. Not right away, but eventually. The work starts to feel different after that incident. You realize the paycheck isn't the point anymore. The vulnerability is fixed. That matters more than your name in a report. You turn down 2 easy bounties from companies with poor security practices. Not to be noble, just because the money doesn't feel worth the compromise. You're building something inside yourself that doesn't fit on a resume. Level 6, the professional. You're 27, you work for a security firm now. Your job title says penetration tester. What it means is that companies pay you to break into their own systems before someone else does. You have written authorization for everything you do, a signed scope document, rules of engagement, a point of contact you can call at 2 a.m. if something goes sideways. The legal structure took getting used to. The work didn't. Your team lead is a woman named Vasquez who has been doing this for 14 years. She reviews your reports before they go to clients. The first one comes back. Too technical. The client isn't reading this to understand the exploit. They're reading it to understand the risk. Rewrite it. You rewrite it. She sends it back again. Still too technical. You rewrite it a second time. She nods. You ask what changed between version 2 and 3. Perspective, she says. You were writing to prove you found something. Now you're writing so they understand why it matters. That's the job. Your first 3 months, you struggle with the reports more than the actual penetration testing. Finding vulnerabilities is becoming natural. Explaining why they matter to people who don't speak your language is harder. You watch Vasquez run a debrief call with a client about findings that would have scared you. She talks about risk and business impact. She talks about cost benefit. She never uses the word vulnerability alone. It's always contextual. Why this matters to their specific operation. You start recording the calls and listening to them at night. Learning the language is taking longer than learning the technique. Level 7, the senior operator. You're 31. You've run over 100 engagements, red team operations, network assessments, social engineering campaigns, physical security tests. You've walked into buildings with a forged badge, talked your way into server rooms, called help desk teams pretending to be new employees needing password resets. None of it feels like deception anymore. It feels like diagnosis. You're showing organizations where they're weak before the people who mean harm find out first. A junior tester named Okafor joins your team. Sharp, quick. He finds a critical remote code execution vulnerability on his second independent engagement. He's excited. Rightfully. You review his report. The finding is solid. The write-up is thin. You sit with him for 2 hours going through it line by line. Not because it's wrong, because a finding is only as useful as the person reading it can understand. He resubmits. The client calls to thank your team specifically. Okafor takes the call. You don't need to be on it. Level 8, the architect. You're 36. You've moved into a different kind of work. Less breaking things, More designing systems that resist being broken. You consult now. Organizations bring you in before they build, not after they've already failed. You sit in rooms with engineers and executives and translate between them. The engineers understand the risk technically, the executives understand it financially. Neither group fully understands how the other thinks. That's the gap you fill. There's a meeting with a financial firm. 40 people in a conference room. A new payment platform 6 months from launch. You go through their architecture diagram. You find 4 critical design flaws in the first 20 minutes. You don't announce them. You write them down. You let the meeting finish. Afterward, you sit with their lead engineer and their CISO and walk through each one quietly. No theater, just the problems and what it costs to fix them now versus after launch. They delay the launch by 3 months. They thank you later. The work is enough. Level 9, the instructor. You're 42. You teach now, not full time. You still consult. But twice a year, you run a 2-week intensive for early career security professionals. 20 students at a time. No slides after the first day. Everything hands on. Real systems. Legal, contained, deliberately constructed to fail in every way real systems fail in the field. There's a student named Femi who reminds you of yourself at 20. She solves problems fast, too fast. She moves before she has the full picture. You don't tell her she's wrong. You give her a scenario where moving fast gets her flagged by a detection system. She sits with the failure, replays it, comes back the next morning with a different approach, slower, more deliberate, clean. You say nothing. You move to the next exercise. Some lessons don't need words.